Hi everyone, this is Prasha Dutra and welcome to another amazing episode of the Prasha Dutra Show. I hope you've been enjoying the episode so far because we're having some really great conversations to help you grow in your career, get more money, and be more confident in whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And today we have a very, very special guest. I'm really thrilled to welcome Maya, a powerhouse in executive career development who transformed her own story from burnout to breakthrough. At just 27, Maya hit rock bottom while chasing a promotion through overwork. But that moment became a turning point that led to an extraordinary career trajectory, including roles at tech giants like Microsoft and Google, two VP positions at hyper growth startups, and a journey that taught her what it really takes to advance to executive leadership. Now, as an international best-selling author and executive career coach, Maya has made it her mission to help others skip the painful lessons she learned the hard way. Her insights reach hundreds of thousands of people through her platform, where she has amassed over 120,000 followers and generated 40 million views with her daily career advice. She's also a LinkedIn instructor with over 34,000 learners and was recently named among the top 50 rising experts in the US and top 12 in Austin. Maya's approach is refreshingly practical. She teaches high achievers to manage their careers like a business, develop crucial executive skills, and build strategic pathways to their dream goals. Her goal is to empower 1 million high achievers to build the careers of their dreams. I am so excited to welcome her. She's also an amazing entrepreneur. I had a chance to meet her and get to know her better the last year. And so I'm really excited to bring her on. Hi, Maya. How are you?
Hey, Prasha. Thank you for that introduction. I'm done. Mic drop. I can go.
I had to fit everything in. I'm like, we can't miss anything about this incredible journey that you've been on. So tell us a little bit about how did it feel to be burnt out?
Oh my gosh. So I had an aha moment, and I'm telling this story because I hope less people will have to hit rock bottom to actually
Mm.
figure this out. So I've always been a high achiever, and very early, I got a job as a travel agent of all things. So, and I worked really hard, and I actually decided to do my bachelor's while I'm working full time, which I had to do because no one was there to actually pay for my education. I had to do it myself. So I would usually wake up, open the office at around 7 a.m., work till 3, go to school, come back home at 10 p.m., try and do my homework, and repeat over and over again. And one day while I was driving to school, I actually fell asleep on the wheel. It was just for a second, and I immediately regained control. Nothing happened. I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't even hurt myself. But that was my aha moment. That was when I realized, okay, what you are doing is not working. There's just too much, and something needs to change. And that was the pivotal point for me when I realized it can't just be more. It needs to be a lot more strategic. I need to be focused on doing the right things.
Mm.
Otherwise, I will just not have enough hours in the day to actually survive.
Hmm. Wow, you gave me goosebumps because I feel like when we think of burnout, we do think of like people like disconnecting or like really just taking it lightly because it's just low energy or and then it's shocking but not shocking that it led to that instance in your life. But the beauty of that is you woke up and you're like, okay, let's get some things
Yeah,
in place.
something needs to change. I do not want that to happen.
Exactly. So what was your first thing you did? Because I feel like a lot of the listeners and people in work I work with are burning out. First, they don't recognize it. It's too late, like you said. Or they are completely shut down and that's when they take some action. But the biggest issue is they are so overwhelmed. They don't know where to begin. So where did like younger Maya begin her journey of trying to get out of this situation?
Well, I wish I could tell you I had a perfect plan, and the minute that this happened, I was like, here's what I need to do. Oh my gosh, no. I was brought up learning and thinking that I need to be the best. So I always gave 120% no matter what I am doing. And it was helpful, obviously, in growing my career, but it created that feeling of guilt that if I'm not working, if I'm not being productive, if I'm not actually doing something valuable, that I'm wasting my time. So for me, it wasn't just like one action, it wasn't just changing my calendar. It was actually working on my mindset and understanding that more isn't always better,
Hmm.
and that I can actually have value in a more strategic way without having to try and kill myself in the process. But that took some time, some practice, a lot of discipline in setting boundaries because I loved my job. This wasn't about I hate this place or I hate what I'm doing. It was I'm doing way too much and I have to take a step back so that I actually take care of my health.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, I think you put it right. The high achievers actually enjoy what they do, and that's why they overdo it.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that was me. I know there are a lot
Mm,
of other reasons, but
mm,
that is what happened to me. And it was a very hard change or shift to make mentally because when you grow up, 25, 28 years
yeah.
learning, do more, work hard, and you will be successful. It's very hard to detach that from your identity
Mm,
and actually be open to realizing there are other ways to add value. You don't have to kill yourself. You can still be very successful,
yeah.
even if you work a little bit less.
Yeah.
And again, that was a process, but I'm very glad that I was able to go through it because it allowed me to keep growing without compromising on my own mental and apparently physical health.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, was it like a reassessment of values, or was it more of like talking to people? Like, again, what were some methodologies that you implemented early on in your journey?
So one of the things that really helped me, so this is kind of weird, but this is the type of coaching and teaching that I have.
Mm,
So I know a lot of people say don't compare yourself because, comparison is the thief of joy. I actually think that it's almost humanly impossible not to compare.
yeah.
So I try and find good comparisons. I try to find people who inspire me versus just make me jealous.
Mm,
So for me, I seek to find people who are still high achievers like me. They still wanted more, but they figured out how to do it without actually burning out. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and I watch YouTubes. And I think for me, it was finding that I hate the word balance because it usually means either or. It was to find the right integration for me, what made sense for me, because I wanted to work hard. I
mm,
did not want to just chill at 5 p.m. every day,
mm.
but I needed to find a way to do it that was right for me. So I just looked for inspiration and I kind of told myself, if they can do it, I can do it. Now the
Yeah.
question is how. And that was the part that I had to figure out.
Yeah. And the beauty of your story is that not only did you get yourself out of the burnout, but you actually positioned yourself in a way that you were in the executive leadership position. And so I feel like that's just such a great way to even learn about burnout is that if you keep working really, really hard, then you are not growing and you're actually killing yourself. But the minute you start to prioritize like time management and energy management, you start to also grow. So basically, you working really hard is counterproductive to actually what you're trying to do. And so, talk to me a little bit about that transition of like when you started to realize, wait, doing less is actually putting me in the right place.
So it was kind of funny, and it relates to this whole methodology that I have about managing your career like a business.
Mm,
So at the time, I just pivoted into marketing. So after being a travel agent, I decided I actually want to do marketing, and I was able to get myself into a role. And about 8 months into that role, I realized there was a huge problem. So it was a small company, but it was growing really quickly, and things were all over the place. And our CEO was so busy just getting new clients that no one was really supervising. And being the high achiever that I am and someone who cares about their job, I kind of went back and forth. And anyone who was born in the 80s, you will understand the reference, but I had a Jerry Maguire moment. I decided to put together a plan. And by the way, that was 4 bullet points on a Word document. And I pitched it to my CEO and I said, look, we have a problem. There's no consistency. Customers are not happy. We have no processes. You have to hire a manager.
mm,
And I will never forget. He looked at me and he's smiling. And I'm like, I just told you your business is going to shit and you're smiling. And he said, yeah, You know what? Awesome. You're the new team leader. Go figure it out. And that was the first time when I realized, wait, I didn't put a million hours into this. I actually did something else. I was strategic. I saw
Yeah.
a problem and I pitched a solution, and it made me a leader. So maybe I need to do more of that. That was the aha moment of there are other ways to add value. How can I do more of that?
Yeah. And I think very few people are asking that question because when you are driven by quantity of your performance instead of quality of your performance, then the actions you take are so different, right? And then the result of those actions are really different too. So I feel like that shift is the hardest thing for professionals to do. So with your coaching and with the tools that you share, how do you shift that perspective in people that now you become a problem solver, not a not just somebody who just checks the boxes and does the task. So what's the methodology behind it, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, it starts with a mindset shift, like pretty much everything. I mean, I always say success is 80% mindset, 20% execution,
Yeah.
because it's all about what we believe and the stories we tell ourselves.
Mm.
Figuring out the how is actually not the hard part. Or you can hire someone like me or you to give you the how, but you have to make that internal shift. So I think one of the first things that we need to do, and what I talk about inside of my programs, is to move from that getting shit done mindset to how can I become a strategic thinker, a strategic partner for the business. And the reason I'm being so descriptive is because people don't like being the get shit done person. They understand that it's not helping them. So by labeling it this way, we're actually helping them create this desire. I want to move away from this. And when we explain there are two different ends of the spectrum, you can either be here or there, they want to move towards how can I actually become that executive material? And then we break down what that is,
Mm.
what are the behaviors that are going to make sure that you are seen as a leader, what are the expectations. Sometimes people don't understand the expectations change. The
Yeah.
higher up you go, the requirements are different. It's not always about being the best at your work. Yes, you need to be good. Yes, you need technical proficiency. But at some point, the technical proficiency has diminishing returns.
Mm.
At that point, what you need is leadership. What you need is being decisive, being strategic, and learning how to communicate and influence people. So, those are the qualities that we actually focus on.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, even my program starts with mindset shift because I don't know how else to help, right? Like that's the foundation of everything. But there's so much value put into technical skills. Like people feel like it's more tangible and it's more like something I can work with. But I'm like, if you can't think differently, you can't do differently. Like you have to think differently. Otherwise, it's all like a band-aid, right? Like, and it's not gonna stick. And especially for leadership roles, I think you have to become the VP because before you become the VP,
Oh,
right?
100%. You're speaking my language. And I think the part people miss that if you were like everyone else, you're going to get what everyone else gets, which in general is average. But if you want to be exceptional, you need to do what most people won't do.
Mm.
And in this case, the higher up you go, the more you need to let go of just the doing and focus on how can I create more impact and actually move the needle. And it's not about how can I be better, it's about how can I make the business better. And once you realize that change in perspective, everything changes. Your decision making changes, your leadership changes, and that's how you actually make that leap into becoming an executive. And it's not always easy
Mm.
because I'm going to be honest, being an executive is not necessarily the right choice for everyone.
Yeah.
That's why less than 9% actually get to that level
Mm.
because the requirements are different. And some people just love doing their work. They love knowing exactly what to do. And I think that is fantastic
Mm.
because my goal for everyone here is to actually enjoy what they do. We spend 90,000 hours at work. You know that. There's no reason for you to suffer. There's no reason for you to be miserable. You can actually enjoy what you do. And no, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows every day, but you're going to wake up excited to actually do something
Yeah.
versus trying to escape the rat race, which is what the internet tells us.
Mhm.
There's a different type of corporate out there, there's a different type of career. And I just want to show people that it is possible to have it all, to have the title, the salary, and the fulfillment. because it's a choice. It's not a given. It's something that you decide that you want and you can actually get.
Yeah, I love it. And you feel worthy of it. I think that's one reason people are running away from this is because they don't feel they're worthy of having it all, especially women, because I spend so much time with women. So that's definitely the big shift that needs to happen. I love it. So now tell me a little bit about, because a lot of people, the VP titles are so cool and everybody wants it. So you know how you mentioned it's not the same. It's not fun. It's not always perfect. It's actually a harder job. So tell us a little bit about what does a VP actually do?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, we need to understand that titles are very different across different companies. They can mean one thing here and one thing there. In fact, and this is actually really interesting, one conversation that completely changed how I see my career was with the VP of marketing at Slack. And she said, look, there are three types of VPs. There are VPs who are builders. So they build everything from the ground up. They're usually the first hire in leadership, very small companies. There are VPs who can scale. So they come in a little bit later when everything is in place and they do more and better
Mm,
and they help the company grow. And that is very much about hiring, training, putting processes in place. And the last type of VPs is when you work for a much bigger corporation, enterprise level, and you're focused on the future. You're focused on what's going to happen 3 to 5 years, how the market is going to change.
mm,
You don't really touch the day to day. And while they have the same title, those are very different roles that require different qualities.
mm,
So it's kind of hard to explain what a VP does because it will be different in different
right.
places. But I think it's important to understand that at this level, you're part of the leadership team. And that means that it's not the company, it's our company. It's not them, it's us. Because without that, it's going to be very hard for you to actually have a big impact, make good decisions. And I think that's kind of the biggest shift that happens because you have to put on your strategic hat and constantly think about others before you think about
Mm,
yourself.
mm.
And I think if you can do that, that is the beginning of really stepping into those roles. And it doesn't mean that you have to forget about yourself. It doesn't mean that you, once again, need to work yourself to the ground. No, no, no. I'm just saying in decision making, you need to think from a company point of view, not just what's going to be good for you.
Yeah, I love that. From the company to our company. I love that. That's such an easy way to shift it, right? Because a lot of people that's where I see most people struggling. There's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of this I need to prove it to someone approach, which makes it too focused on the person. And then that hyper focus on yourself, that selfishness or whatever you want to call it, ends up being reflected in your work where you're not able to connect with the team, you're not able to connect with the mission, you're not able to connect with the results you're doing on a daily basis. And that's where I think the perspective gets completely muddled for individual contributors. um, I want to ask you this question because I see this all the time. How can an individual contributor who doesn't feel like they belong in the company, they've never been given and again, I speak from a women's perspective, but like for most women, they don't feel like they belong in the company. They don't feel like they have ever been valued. How can they start to care about the company so that they can actually grow? Because I think there's a lot of resentment there, right? Like, companies doesn't do anything for me. I don't think there's any future for me. I'm really frustrated. So they're stuck in these emotions. How can an IC break out of that? Or do you recommend that they should just go find another company that they care about more?
Yeah, that is definitely an option. I'm
Mm,
going to be very honest. One of my most favorite quotes is, if you're not happy, move, you're not a tree. And we have a tendency to stay in places that don't serve us. And I know that it's scary to look for a job, and I know that it's scary to make a move. It doesn't mean that you have to quit on a whim. Don't rage quit. Not definitely something that I recommend, but make a plan. Make a transition plan to go to a place where you can grow, because every single day you're staying somewhere has no opportunities for progression for you. You're just holding yourself back. So yes, that is an option. But if, let's say, you have a good manager or overall the team is nice, but you don't feel like you're getting everything that you need, there are actually a couple of different ways that you can fall back in love with your company or with your job. The first one is to fall in love with people.
Mm.
So to find people who inspire you inside the organization, a lot of the time it will be people who have been there for a while. They know the company and the mission. They are the people who can get you excited about it and remind you why they're doing it. And sometimes that excitement will rub off on you. I think the second thing that you can do is fall in love with the product or the industry. So spend more time getting to know the product inside and out, how it helps people. Look at customer reviews and see how your company is actually doing something valuable, or just get more information about the industry. Sometimes just getting yourself reacquainted with what's going on, the innovation, it might actually help motivate you. So I think those can be two different ways for you to kind of fall back in love, get more motivation. But when it comes to, hey, the company needs to do this for me, I actually have a very unpopular opinion. And look, in an ideal world, every manager will know exactly what you want. They will understand your growth and they will give you a roadmap and say, there you go. I have worked for major companies. I have worked for tiny startups. I'm going to be honest. I have never had that level of support. And it's not because I had bad managers. It's because most companies don't have a good infrastructure and most team members don't have the time. They have so many other problems.
Yeah.
And that's why my approach is so proactive. Don't wait for someone to give you, ask for what you want. So
Mhm.
look at your own career, decide, okay, this is what my next step is going to look like. Do the research. Where do I have gaps? What am I missing? And then go to your manager with a plan and say, I want your help in actually executing this
Yeah.
because my goal is to grow in the next 6, 12, 18 months. And I really want to make sure that I get there.
Yeah.
And usually, when you do that, if you have a decent enough company and support system, you will grow because
Mhm.
you're putting it in motion. So instead of waiting and hoping and kind of, crossing your finger that someone will notice, just build the kind of progression you want to see. And I know it sounds super easy when I say it, but it actually is not that hard.
Yeah, no, it's not hard. Actually, I think when you were talking, one thing that came to mind was you have to recognize what the organization is in the business of. Like, why does that business exist? The business, I think people think, exists to serve them. And it doesn't. It exists to make
Yeah.
money, it exists to make profit, it exists to solve a problem. And the only way for you to get the maximum value out of that transaction is to serve that same mission. And if you don't have clarity on that, then you must go read the website and look into the values and talk to people, like educate yourself in the simple question of what's the business we're in, because that's different for different companies. It's not just the
Yeah.
product, it's not, but it's never to serve you. And maybe that's where the expectations are muddled. It's like, why is my manager not talking about promotion? They're not in the business of promoting you, they're in the business of making more money, and you make more money and then you get promoted you know
Yeah.
and it's
Or you
quite
get promoted because you can prove you're going to make more money.
exactly, exactly. Or you show them, yeah, exactly, of how you'll serve that mission, because that's the business we're in. But I feel like if we interviewed 100 ICs as to what is the business of the company, most people will now be able to tell us the right answer as to what the company actually
Yeah.
does.
It's funny, but it's actually one of the things that when we talk about the 30, 60, 90
Yeah.
day plan, most people get it wrong
Hmm.
because they think it's a plan to have a plan. I will learn, I will try, I will. The first 30 days, and I actually recommend doing it before you actually start a role, especially if it's a senior executive role, is for you to get to know the company. You need to do deep research, not wait for them to tell you, but actually go out, listen to earning calls, read every interview that they ever did with the CEO, know the website inside out, look into internal files, understand the strategy. And I have to tell you, Prasha, I have done this at every level I was at. I did it as a manager, I did it as a VP. It gives you so much leverage to understand what the business is about because no matter what you do, you then have a way to connect it, to connect your work to the impact. And
Mhm.
I think where most people kind of get it wrong is they think it's not fair. And
Hmm.
for some reason, we think the workplace is supposed to be fair. So, a little bit of painful news, it's not. It's not a game of fair. No one is there, to your point, to serve you. But that's also a good thing Because if you stop thinking about fair and you start thinking about yourself as a one person company and you run it like a CEO, meaning you promote yourself, you invest in your own product, which is you, so you get better, you learn. If you learn how to network, meaning do sales, you're going to have opportunities. You're not going to have to wait in line, and you're going to be able to grow so much faster than anyone else around you. And you're not going to have to work more hours to do it. You just need to do things differently.
I love it. So you get in the business of you, and then your business can serve the other business. Like
Yeah.
that way, nobody else has to be in the business of you because they are not.
But it gives you so much
Yeah.
agency. I mean, why go through your career hoping and wishing and waiting when you can actually be in control?
Yeah.
And I know that it's hard for people to believe because they say, Maya, but the company makes decisions. My manager makes decisions. The economy is terrible right now. And to all of that, I say yes, but it doesn't actually matter because you have options, you
Yeah.
have choices. You don't have to stay where you don't grow. There's actually research that shows, research from Harvard Business Review, I believe, that people who move jobs on average every 2 years earn double.
Mm.
And people are so terrified of that when in reality, it can actually be a career building strategy. Now, I'm not saying you have to move, but I'm saying you don't have to stay where you can't grow. Again, I'm going back to it's a choice that we're making.
Yeah.
And if you want to grow your career, if it's a priority, then we can make different choices. And those choices will open very different doors.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, if strategic thinking is a prerequisite for the roles you want, if you can't implement strategic thinking on yourself, then how the hell will you do it for 10,000 employees? Like, it's just
Yeah.
not possible. So it has that, and that is the reason why the people who are strategic get promoted, because that's the quality that you need. And so if you are promoting yourself, if you have a plan, like that shows us that you are ready to take on more responsibility and work on bigger strategies because you're being strategic from the get-go. So I love that.
Yeah.
um,
And I think people get it wrong. So when they hear the word strategic, all they can imagine is a very beautiful presentation. And that actually has nothing to do with strategy.
yeah.
What
Yes.
being strategic is thinking from a different perspective.
I'm gonna hold you off in a sec for a second. Can you hit your settings button to change the audio to your Shrew mic?
I knew that would happen.
Is it sure? I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, let me see what's happening.
You just hit the settings button. It'll be
Yep,
right.
going to audio.
I had to do it for my mic too. So
Okay, can you hear me now?
excellent. And that was going to be my question, anyways. Like, what is strategy? What is strategic thinking?
Well, I'm going to give you an example because examples usually work so much better. And I started saying that being strategic is about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and having a different perspective. So the most counterintuitive advice you will probably hear from me that it drives me crazy when I see it all over the internet. When someone is asked to accept a promotion, but the company says, but we can't really give you a raise. So, we're not going to be able to pay you more. And I think the default setting for most of us is it's not fair. I'm not going to work for free. I'm going to say no. And while I totally agree that if you're doing more work, you should get compensated for it, when you kind of put your strategic hat on, here's what you realize. When you say no to a promotion, it is unlikely that you will have this opportunity again anytime soon. Not because you're not good, but because you kind of didn't work within what the corporate was expecting. So it's not great to say no. It automatically puts you in a challenging place. Now, what about saying yes? What happens when you say yes? When you say yes, you get the promotion, which means you get the title. You get an opportunity to do more meaningful work for a short period of time. When I say short, I mean 3 to 6 months, and you're going to use this time to look for another job anyway. But when you go out, you're not going to have to start where you were before. You already accepted the title, you earned it, and you can use it to open doors. And I think that's the part that people miss. And that is what it means to be strategic. Maybe put emotions aside, see the bigger picture, and make sure that you're looking at every possibility, not just black and white, because there are always gray areas where you can actually use it to your advantage. And this is what being strategic is all about.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's where people get caught up, is like they don't know what it really means. Now, tell me, if someone's struggling with switching that perspective, switching into that habit of like stepping away, looking at the big picture, because I think in corporate right now, at least till I was there, and when I hear people talk as well, it's like it's the wild, wild west, right? Like it's selection, it's natural selection. The fittest is gonna win, and there's no like rules or structure, right? Like everybody's trying to find some sense to it, and that's where I think people struggle, is like if they're not naturally good at it, they're not naturally thinking strategically, they're naturally more emotional.
Yeah.
uh, how can someone start to practice strategic thinking?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question because I don't think anyone really teaches you how to do that.
Exactly.
I work with so many people who get feedback from their manager that says, we just need you to be more strategic, and then zero guidance on how to do it. And once again, what do we default to? Strategic means presentation, right? Let's think about the next quarter. And that might be part of a strategy, but it's not strategic thinking. So I think if we want to make the switch, it actually starts with, if you remember, from you to we. So I'm part of this. You have to put yourself in the middle. You need information. That is one of the most important things when it comes to strategic thinking. It doesn't happen on a whim. You're not just going to wake up one day and have the solutions to all of the problems. What you need to do is get valuable information that you can then process and turn into insights. And I think where a lot of people get stuck is that even if they have the information, all they do is share the information back instead of taking a minute to think about it, to connect the dots themselves, and then package it in a way that they can actually show those insights to someone else. And that is actually the process of being strategic. So it's not going to happen overnight. You will need to practice it, but it has to do with how you process information. And if you don't understand the business, if you don't understand the business model, if you don't know the industry, it will be almost impossible for you to be strategic in a way that will have an impact. You can come up with ideas. A lot of people can come up with ideas, but being strategic is knowing which ones to choose and invest in so that you have more success than failure.
Yeah, I love that, because yeah, that's the more people I work with who are at those levels and want to move forward, and that is the key. Like I think people are failing interviews because they are not strategic about how they think, because they can't connect the dots, and everybody's becoming a parrot of like star method, star method, star method, and I'm like, oh god, like how will you stand out if everybody sounds the same and you have really no new perspective to add to the table, right? Where you're just repeating everything you've done, and you're not able to sort of talk about what's valuable, what's important, how this information can strategically help you stand out. And so I feel like strategic thinking is one of those things, like you said, nobody teaches it, and everybody should learn it. And it's scary because we have these people with tech degrees, multiple tech degrees, multiple, like, so much education, so much experience and knowledge, but this one skill does not let them go past a certain level, and so many people get stuck right there. So if
Yeah.
somebody has been stuck somewhere for too long, how can they move towards leadership role? Because I think sometimes when they have this long experience of being in the same role for too long, same company for too long, they just never got the time. Again, coming back to moms, mothers who take time off or lose the years, or even lose big projects and stuff, how can they start to position themselves at this stage where they're like, okay, 10 years I couldn't grow, but now I'm ready, I want to make the switch? What would be your advice to that group of people?
Oh, okay. So a couple of things, and sorry, I'm excited because it's actually
It's
part of
great.
what I do, and I know it's part of what you do.
Yeah.
So the first step, once again, I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a broken record, is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start by telling yourself that you deserve it, that you have worked really hard. It doesn't matter how long it's been, it doesn't matter what your gaps are, it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually like to set the bar When people ask me, but Maya, at some point you're going to say it's impossible. I'm like, nope. The bar is very high. The bar is if it does not defy the laws of physics, you can do it.
Mm.
So this is how I define what's possible and what's not possible for my clients. And by the end of my program, they all say it and believe it, which opens doors. So, step number one, work on yourself. Make sure that you believe that it's possible. If you're struggling to do that, find a comparison that works for you. Find someone like you who maybe had to take some time off and has spent time with their kids and they're coming back to work, because if they did it, you can do it. And what we can't see, we can't be. So we have to have some sort of reference. So I think on a mindset part, this is what I would do. Step number two is about having a strategy. Getting promoted, leveling up, it doesn't happen by mistake. It doesn't happen because there's a performance review. This is a misconception.
Mm.
It happens because you qualify yourself for the next level and other people can see it. So you need a strategy to go from where you are to where you want to go. And I'll give my $1,000,000 advice that can change your entire career, and yet 95% of people don't do it. How you figure out what's missing and how to close the gap, you go and talk to people who have the job that you want to have. It is free, anyone can do it, and it will literally give you the step by step of what you need to do. And then you're going to start executing.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, you need to learn how to sell yourself. You need to get comfortable with realizing that if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else will. Okay? And selling yourself is not bragging. It's if you're not doing it, you're keeping yourself invisible. And no one wants that. So I would say mindset, having a clear strategy, executing, and then learning how to sell yourself. If you can do those three, and by the way, I have a client who came back from maternity leave and within a year got promoted, got a nice raise. And she actually did it while having two toddlers at home and building a new home. So it is possible with the right tools.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Another thing that comes to mind when you're talking about that, it's so spot on and so perfect, because that's kind of how I did it. I mean, that's how you do it. Like, I don't know any other way if you don't talk to the people, because it also gives you that industry insight, the company insight of like what's happening. Like, I mean, I would be on calls like every morning. I'd hit someone up, like, what's up in your plant, in your department, and like chat about things very casually and build that relationship. And you're right, nobody wants to do it. Like, everybody just wants to be self sufficient. And I think that's where you don't want to be self sufficient. You actually need, because these are the same people who are going to be sponsors later, right?
Exactly, and open doors for you.
Exactly.
And I believe that's even how we met.
Yeah.
The first time we talked a few years back, and it's something that I now do with everything. I did it in corporate, I do it for my own business.
Yeah.
It's the best shortcut in the world. Learn from people who have already made the mistakes so that they can tell you what to do and what not to do. But I think people are scared of reaching out to strangers on the internet. What are they going to think? Do they think I'm rude? What if no one responds to me? What if it doesn't work out? What if my company finds out? There are so many stories in our heads. And what I realized, because I've been on both ends of the spectrum, when someone reaches out to you, not about a job, not, hey, will you hire me? But they reach out and they say, I'm so inspired by your career. This one thing you did
Hmm.
looks like something I want to do. Can I ask you a few questions about how you got here? For most people, that is a compliment. So they have no problem jumping on a call with you
Yeah.
and sharing their journey. In fact, people really like talking about themselves. So it's not going to be everyone who says yes. People are busy and they have lives. But I have to tell you, in probably 15 years of doing this,
Mhm.
the worst feedback I have ever gotten was, thank you, but I'm currently prioritizing family and I don't have time to jump on calls, but good luck. This is the worst feedback I ever got. I either got no response, which is okay, or people saying, sure, let's jump on a call. And then those calls completely changed my career and my life many times.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's so, so important. Networking, internal networking, networking with people. We just did a challenge inside the program, and I had the girls like send 5 messages every day for 7 days. I'm like, let's like get this out of the way. Like you're so scared of it, now you're
Amazing.
gonna do it for 7 days. And I've noticed there's something about 7 days that really gets people out of their comfort zone. And one of the persons not only got on 5 calls, and she had sent what, 25 messages, so 5 calls out of
Yeah.
25, and was invited to a networking event. And now she's like, Prasha, like I joined your program to get clarity if I can be a product manager, but just doing this particular exercise, I realized I am so much more than a product manager, and I can actually apply to the roles right away. I thought it was going to take a year, but apparently I already do everything these people are telling me to do. And I'm like, okay, my job's done. Good luck.
I Oh my God. Okay. So I have a very similar story, and I think we have to talk about this because
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand.
Yeah.
So one of my clients joined the program. She's a director, and we do this thing where we think about the next 10 years and where we want to be. And she said, I want to be a C-level executive, right? So she was in HR. I want to be a CHRO, but it will probably take 5 to 7 years. And then she started talking to people in the
Mm.
C-level. And exactly like your client, she realized, oh, I'm kind of already doing what they're doing. So as long as I stay at a company around the same size, if I don't, go work for a giant company, I can probably do it. And Prasha, 5 months later, she became a CHRO. So she
Wow.
jumped 2 levels in 5 months just because she went through this exercise. And it's so important for us to see that and understand that. It builds confidence, it builds a network, and a lot of the time it shows you, I already have what it takes. And I think we all need that to have
Yeah.
the confidence to actually go after it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think that's the thing. Like, people want all these quick fixes and fast tips and just fix my resume and just fix my LinkedIn. And it's like, but
Don't
that's
get me
none of
started on resumes.
none of that's gonna do
Resumes
anything.
don't open doors anymore. They just
No.
don't.
Especially for those executive levels. I was just talking to somebody before our call, and I was literally saying, what got you a 150K job is not what's going to get you a 300K job. That's not how it works. In fact, you're probably going to end up with 2 interviews in total, and you need to get at least one offer out of it. That's how it works. And nobody is going to post these jobs online. They will come through network. That's it. They will come through somebody referring you, somebody saying, I trust this person, somebody saying, hey, we have a job open, and thinking about you as the person for it is
Yeah.
how VP level roles are going to get filled. You know?
100%. That's how I got my director and both of my VP roles,
Yeah.
through
And
having that type of network.
and then she was telling me I can fix my resume. I'm like, you don't even need one. Like, literally don't need a resume for this. You need to have a network. And she doesn't have her LinkedIn. She doesn't talk to people. And I'm like, okay, then how is this going to work? This is like, that's what strategic thinking also is like,
Yes.
you really need to figure this out as to what factors affect the result, and have that mental model of like, how does this all play out, and play different scenarios. As coaches, that's all we do, right? Like, we're just playing these different scenarios and preparing our clients for like the potential ones, and being like, this is probably the best way you can go forward. So coaches are nothing but strategists, right?
In a way, but what you're describing, again, I'm going back to the business analogy. This
Yes.
is how you create leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing more of the same and expecting different results, which we all know is the definition of insanity,
Yeah.
we need to figure out how to spend less time or put in less effort and get better results. And this is what leverage is all about. I think the problem is it's easier and it's more familiar to do what everyone does, right? Apply online in this case, or if it's a promotion, just wait for performance review and hope for the best. And it's a little bit harder to get yourself out of your comfort zone and actually talk to people, or maybe come up with an initiative or an idea to show that you're ready. And I think that's the gap that we need to overcome. It's a little bit more about the courage to do it and being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
because that's what leadership is all about. No one has all the answers. I thought, I'm going to get to VP. I'm going to know everything. I will never question myself. I will never have challenges.
Self
Hell
stuff.
no. And my CEO was the same. And guess what? The board was the same. People are trying to do their best. And being an executive is not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to take action even when you don't know what the result is. And if you can do it for yourself, how would you do it for a company? So
Yeah.
essentially, when you're not networking or when you're not selling yourself, you're actually saying, I'm not ready for leadership roles because I can't do the kind of work that an executive would do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have those subtle cues that we're sending with our actions, but we're not realizing that it's hurting us.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe that's another reason to kind of jump back in and start advocating for yourself because you need it.
Yeah, and because everyone's watching. You think nobody cares, but they all do because everybody needs talent. Everybody has a broken, dried up pipeline to the top, and everybody's looking for talent. And they would rather hire someone from within because you know the company, you understand the culture and things like that. But because you're not making yourself visible, you're still sending a signal. You still have a personal brand, which is she doesn't want anything or he doesn't want anything, and in your head you're like, but I want all the things,
Yeah.
but you're not acting like this, so nobody's picking up on those bad signals.
Managers don't read minds. I mean, I wish that was the case, but they don't. So, my rule of thumb, this is what I teach. If you didn't say it, it didn't happen. They don't know. So, assume they don't know.
Yeah.
Even if it's your direct manager, if you did not tell them about something, they don't know. So,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be very proactive in sharing. And my best tip on how to do that, start every one on one with a win.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start with the problems. This is what we all do. We get into the meeting. Okay, here's what's not going well. Just change that. Use the first 5 minutes to share something good, to share something you made progress on, share something that you're proud of. Just take a little time for yourself and to
Mm-hmm.
position yourself as someone who is doing well and trying hard and actually having an impact. This one tiny change can completely transform how leadership sees you.
Yeah.
And anyone can do that. And it's not scary. You don't have to stand in front of 100 people and speak. You just need to change your process.
Mm.
And a lot of the time when we talk about getting promoted, people are so worried, but Maya, I don't have time. I'm already working
Exactly.
crazy hours. And I'm saying, no, no, no. This is not about working more. This is about changing how you work.
Mm.
Because every email, every conversation, every Zoom call you jump on is sending a message and telling a story. So you just need to be in control of that narrative. You need to be aware and you need to do things in a way that actually sends the right message. Hey, I'm ready. I'm here to do more.
Yeah.
Because when they see that, that's when promotions are going to come to you. You're not going to have to chase them. You will actually be the obvious choice for that promotion.
Yeah, I love it. Oh God, it's such a great conversation, and I feel like it's such an easy thing to do. Maybe because we innately do it, but yeah, that's why I can see the excitement in your voice and my voice. Like, please just do it. It's like not that hard. You're actually like working 10 times harder already. So how do you keep that in check though, that balance? So from because high performers have a tendency to sort of fall back and work really hard again, what are a couple of practices do you think that people can take to sort of not fall back in that doing more attitude when they get promoted?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things you can do practically, but I think the bottom line is practice,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we are going to go back to that default setting. I still do it sometimes, right? I do things where I should actually ask my team to do it. So first of all, you need to get very clear on the fact that delegating is actually a good thing. When you're delegating, you're helping your team members grow. You're taking work that you, Mr. Senior, did, and you're giving it to someone more junior so that they can experience it. And that is a blessing. So the more you delegate, the more time you're going to have to think about more strategic things because you can't do the work of two people. If you're constantly doing, you're not going to have time for the strategy. So I think getting very comfortable with delegation, I think that's important. I would say being extremely, extremely critical with what you actually give time to. And this isn't just about prioritizing your work, it's not just about having a list, it's about learning what to say no to. And we need to get very good at saying no. And for every project, every request, you need to look at it in two different ways. One, is this actually going to contribute to the business? Should we actually do this, or is this a nice to have? And two, will it actually contribute to me, to my goals, to my KPIs, and to my ability to grow here? And you want to find a common ground where you can actually do both. And anything that falls outside of that spectrum, you delegate, automate, hello, AI, or you eliminate. And I know that it sounds crazy, but I ran an experiment relatively early in my career. I was working for Microsoft, and I looked at my entire to-do list and I prioritized it, and then I removed the bottom 20%, completely took it off, didn't do anything for 3 months. Nothing happened. No one cared, and I had more time to do meaningful work. We sometimes have so much crap on our to-do list that we think is needed. And we're going back to that strategic mindset. It's not about checking boxes. It's about doing the things that move the needle. And if they don't move the needle, then we say no. And every time you say no to something that's not meaningful, you're saying yes to time that will actually get you that recognition.
Yeah, I love it. So this was such a great conversation, Maya. Like this is a master class in how to get promoted. Like this is amazing. I love it. And every conversation I have with you is equally valuable. So I love that. Now, before we let you go, I have a couple of questions. So first is, how can our audience and people watching support your mission to help 1 million high performers?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you should support yourself. So I share daily career advice. I have been doing it for 5 years on LinkedIn. Everything is free. So feel free to follow me or send me a message. And just take action. The difference between the people who succeed and those who do not is not talent. It's not even skills. It is literally the fact that they take action. And you said something earlier. A lot of people think if I just get an MBA, I can be an executive. Or if people have titles, then they're really good at their job. And the two do not necessarily actually go hand in hand. It's not about information. It's about what you do with it. It's how you apply it. And this is why you don't need to have an MBA to be an executive. You don't have to have all the different certifications. Some of them are important, especially if you're a professional, but this is not what actually opens the door.
Yeah.
So just a reminder that at the end of the day, if you want to be successful, you have to take action. No matter how small, just do something this week. Maybe your 7-day challenge. Reach out to people in the next 7 days, even though it's December. I know the excuse is going to be, but no one is there. People are still here.
Yeah.
So maybe take that challenge and prove to yourself that when you take action, you make progress.
Yes. I love that. This is so good. How can people join your program, Maya? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my program is called Success Builders, and essentially it's the proven pathway to VP, right? I have done it a few times. I learned what to do, what not to do. So essentially it's the clear roadmap of every single step that will get you there in months, not years. And if anyone is interested, either reach out to me on LinkedIn or go to my website, mayagrossman.com. You'll see all the information.
Yeah, I love that. My last question, Maya, what's your favorite book?
Oh my God, it changes all the time. But right now, this is actually really interesting. Last week, I read a book called Exactly What to Say. And it's about sales. And I thought it was only going to be sales for business people. But I actually think it's a great tool for every executive to have because it's about influence. So definitely recommend checking it out.
Excellent. So our next session will be on influence because that is the next thing. Once you get the strategic thinking done, now how do you translate that information so people actually take you seriously and you can influence decisions? So I love it. We're already having part 2 planned. Awesome. Thank you so much again for your time, Maya, and for your wisdom. You keep it so simple, to the point, and honest. And it's so easy to follow the advice that you give, which is basically what we all need. And you don't dilute it. You don't make it fluffy. So I love that about you.
I'm allergic to fluff.
Put that on a t-shirt. I love it. Excellent.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time. And just show your book one more time so that people can see the book that you've written.
Right behind me. It's called Invaluable. How to Master the 10 Skills That Will Skyrocket Your Career. All of them, by the way, soft skills.
Yeah, excellent. I love it. Thank you so much again. And everyone listening, please check out the show notes when we post the episode. We'll have everything linked to Maya's, Maya's profile and what she does. She's amazing at what she does. So thank you again, Maya, for taking the time.